Hi, my name is Jeff Myers. I'm a Senior Director with REI Systems, and I've spent more than 25 years of my career working to help government improve its performance. I've done that most recently over 10 years with REI Systems using technology to help government achieve more efficient and better impact on its missions. I want to tell you a little bit about today why we launched a Grants Management Breakfast Forum together with George Washington University and the National Grants Management Association, and to launch a series of podcasts to help share information with grant managers across the federal government as well as state and local governments. We started out thinking heavily about grants from the perspective that many people do, which is that of a grantee, someone who's trying to make sure they capture as much revenue as they can from grants and stay compliant with the requirements that are made of grantors. But we realized there were very few folks who were focused on the perspective of the grant issuer, the federal agency that is spending as part of the $700 billion a year that is used by the government to be able to carry out mission in critical programs. And frankly, that's more money than is spent on procurements and contracts. And what we found is that grant makers really have had very little community. We wanted to strengthen that community, to give them a place to turn, to be able to find peers who'd face some of the same problems and solved some of those problems, and to give them a network of resources to be able to use to meet the challenges that they face. So one of the first steps we took was to launch a grants management survey to kind of get an understanding of the lay of the land and the context. We thought we would get back a good set of baseline information, but some of the things we found were really surprising. We found, for example, that the most significant single use of time of grant managers across the United States is in administrative compliance. It's not in helping people achieve the mission of the grant program, or selecting grant recipients, or even kind of exchanging information and knowledge with their peers. In fact, the survey found that people who are grant managers spend more than 41% of their time on administrative compliance, and that figure is growing. And we thought that's something that is burden. It's not contributing to the end purpose of the grant. We should think about ways to reduce that. Not only that, that was our 2017 grant survey. In 2018, the Grants Management Survey found that the proportion of federal officials who are able to identify the performance and who understand that the performance of their grant programs is improving is 40% or less. That was surprising to us, especially in contrast to state and local officials, who 60% of whom said they understood what performance was and performance has improved, and in many cases significantly. What we found in particular as a subset of that, though, was many of the federal officials just couldn't measure performance. And so we thought this is a huge use of federal resources, more than 20% of the federal budget. We need to get a better understanding of how performance can be managed and improved in the grants community. In our 2018 Grants Management Survey, we were surprised to learn that there is not a good picture of performance towards the grant program mission. And in fact, although 60% of state and local officials indicated that their performance was measurable and improving, in many cases significantly, only 40% of the federal respondents to our survey said that they could measure performance and that it was improving. What that tells us is kind of a twofold problem. Many federal agencies aren't able to effectively measure and understand performance against the grant programs that they are using to carry out the important government mission activities. But as well, even where they are able to measure it, often the performance is not improving. It's either staying flat or declining. So we thought this is an area where one of the primary purposes of our Grants Management Breakfast and the entire grant-making community is challenged in trying to understand and improve performance, where the agency that's making the money, spending the money in terms of grants, is not necessarily directly responsible for carrying out the program activity, and therefore has to kind of understand performance in ways that are different than are used traditionally in other sectors of government. So as REI decided to dive deeper into this topic of grants performance, we thought it's probably actually broader than that. There would be a good value to the community in terms of trying to create a series of podcasts on a number of different focused topics to better share information across the silos of the grant community where managers are facing challenges. And we thought, what better way to start out than with performance? And what better way to start out on grants performance than with three of the experts that are perhaps foremost in the field of performance management in the federal government. And so, in fact, I'm here to launch today a series of video podcasts from REI Systems that are going to feature as their first three presenters Sally Ann Harper, the former Chief Financial Officer for the Government Accountability Office, as well as the Chief Financial Officer for EPA. Second, Shelley Metzenbaum, who's the former Chief Performance Officer for the United States within the Office of Management Budget. And third, Kathy Stack, who not only oversaw OMB's budget review and activities with respect to many civilian agencies within the federal government, but also served as Senior Advisor for Evidence-Based Management within OMB. Each of these three eminent experts in performance has a special interest in grants, and so they're going to share with you their expertise and a number of their recommendations about how to tackle this problem of better understanding and improving performance, where the federal government is making the grants but not necessarily responsible for carrying out the mission activities, because those grant recipients, states, local governments, nonprofits, and individuals in some instances are actually carrying out the work to achieve the government's mission. So this is going to be a series of podcasts available on video as well as just audio for those who are interested. We encourage you to share them with your friends and colleagues. We encourage you, if you're interested and have a perspective that you think will be helpful to other grant managers, to step forward and say you have something you would like to share. We would love to have you be a participant in a future podcast on improving grants management across the government in the United States so that mission outcomes can be better achieved, whether it be in transportation, health, scientific research, law enforcement, or other arenas that are carried out where the government carries out its mission through grants. Thank you. This is Jeff Myers for REI Systems.
This podcast series is produced by REI Systems. To see and hear more podcasts in the series, or for more information, please visit reisystems.com/grants. If you'd like to contribute to this conversation, send a note to grants@reisystems.com.